Hey everybody, welcome to the Boy in the Beard podcast, season 2, episode 4. We're trucking along.
Yeah.
We've got Beav, Brodie, Tactical Baby Gear, car guy.
Rad dad.
Yeah, new father.
Totally rad.
Yeah,
New father for the third time.
for the third time, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
New
So
again.
we're going to talk to Beav and pick his brain a little bit, talk marketing, small business, taking over the world globally with Tactical Baby Gear and any challenges of being a dad, which we know we've all got them. So, Beav, I appreciate you coming in. It's really an honor.
Yeah, man, I
Honestly.
appreciate it. I'm super happy to be here. I love to sit and chat, so I hope everyone's ready.
Yeah.
We can talk. I mean, I think we're going to run the gamut of things that we talk
Okay.
about. Knowing you and I, we have like a very similar sort of past.
Yeah.
You and I know each other from years ago, and didn't really realize we probably knew each other.
Right.
We kind of knew of each other,
Yeah,
maybe
for
is
sure.
the best way to say that.
Yeah.
And then recently sort of reconnected over some sort of business stuff
Yep.
and things like that. So we can go from cars to business to
That works
all
for
the
me.
things.
Well,
Yeah.
let's start with the cars.
Okay.
And Tony, I apologize because I know this isn't your forte or neck of the woods.
Cars
Yeah.
go forward
and backwards.
and backward. Yeah. Side to side if you do it wrong.
So I moved to Beaufort in '97, January 19th of '97.
How do you know that?
My son's second birthday. So
Got
he had
it.
turned 2 on that day.
Okay.
In that life, I was with Sonic Drive-In. We opened up on May 8th of '97. I have select memory on certain things. Not very
Everything
many-
else is a blur.
Everything else is a blur. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, what I did
All the other
2
files
weeks
got
ago.
corrupted.
Yeah, no, for sure. Too much data. So, what was your car at that point?
In '97, I didn't own a car yet.
Okay.
I got my first car.
How old are you?
I'm 36.
Okay.
So
Okay,
I got
so
my
later.
first car in '99.
Okay.
Yeah, '99. I would have been like 15, 16. Kind of got my learner's permit, that kind of thing. My first car was a '99 Civic Si
Nice.
in black.
In '99.
In '99.
Look at you.
Yeah, that's big,
Holy cow,
big
dude.
dog, you know.
Yeah.
My parents were very generous to me, and
Excellent.
I had some money set aside for me to help me buy my first car, so
That's
that
dope.
was super cool.
Yeah.
That car got totaled like a year later after I swerved to miss a deer and hit a tree, and it was really bad.
Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, that was my first car. But see, I was hanging out with Chris Williams, who also had a Honda Civic
Yeah.
Si, and I was hanging out with Dre,
Yeah.
who had a Honda Civic and worked at the Nike outlet. Anyways, that's a whole nother conversation. Dre's one of my favorite people on the planet. But anyway, some similar circle of people that we knew and we were
Right.
hanging out with,
Yeah.
but we weren't hanging out together.
Correct. Right.
And I'm trying to remember how I even connected the dots. I was like, wait, that Sean is that Sean?
Yeah. Well,
And I think you posted like a Nope
I
thing
did.
like a year or two
Sure,
ago.
it was a Nope, yeah. Yeah, so I had a '96 Camry.
This is super in the weeds for anybody listening. who's
Yeah.
probably
Oh,
like,
no. Yeah, and there's even to
They didn't
this
read up on
day,
the lore.
even to this day, I'll still get people, and I had the most obnoxious license plate ever. It said, "I see you envy me." Granted, I'm in a '96 Camry, 4-cylinder, automatic, but eventually it had headers, and I had nitrous, and I had some other mods too.
Sure.
But when I first got it, I had the big obnoxious wing. David Felver, when he was over at Asher Sign or Spectrum Graphics, did all my vinyl work.
That thing had so much vinyl on it,
Dude, it was ridiculous.
and you had all white interior on that thing too.
At
didn't
some
you?
point I did, yeah.
Yeah.
The infamous Chip Cooler, which is now a fire department, did interior, and he had done the interior. And so for that interior, I was at David's outside of his house, over by the air station, literally taking everything apart. We sprayed it, so it wasn't like it wasn't perfect. Even put it in the gauge pod, and I'm talking about stuff that I haven't talked about in probably 20 years.
Yeah.
So we had redone the interior. The headliner, Chip, had done that over at Sutcliffe Audio.
Okay.
So that was, which is still here.
Yeah.
Terry Sutcliffe and the boys still do audio and stuff. And then so the sponsorships and the traveling and all that stuff. I mean, that was a long time ago.
It's a long
The
time
hit
ago.
counter on the website.
Yeah, I still actually
Comic
I have
Sans.
an angelfire.com website, which is still up. And
Wow.
there's a hit counter on it, and then literally, it's horrible. I mean, really a website. It's quintessential at the time.
More like a landing page.
It
for the
feels
camera.
exactly like a landing page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it goes to some of the car show stuff and everything
Sure.
like that. So how deep? You started with the SI,
Yep.
and then where'd you go?
Like what vehicle that I have? Man, my automotive journey goes on about 15 years, and I still mess with cars, even currently, more as a hobby now,
Yeah.
but it was my business for a long time. But, that car got totaled. I was in love with that Honda. I'm like a Honda guy. You can see my
Oh, I
Honda
see that.
tattoo
Oh,
here.
Yeah, for sure.
And I got another Civic that was I bought it used because I was in like insurance money and all this
Yeah.
stuff. So I buy another used Civic, but it had a turbo in it. Still, it was single cam EX, Anyway, so that kind of got me back into cars, and then I was like really tinkering at that point. But that turned into motor swaps and everything else, and blah, 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 down the list. Which just like added fuel to the fire of car stuff for me, So at any rate, that then, like through that journey, I fell in love with cars and working on cars, and I was always working on my friends' stuff and working out of my parents' garage and, taking money from kids at school to like paint and install body kits and, that kind of stuff, right? Early 2000s Nopi stuff.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
And
it's really funny because I was thinking about this recently. It's like, I think I learned how to adapt to trends, and this will circle back to marketing. Adapt to trends and what was cool and what wasn't, like early on in the car days.
Right.
Where it's like the big wings were cool and then they weren't. And the crazy body kits were cool and then they weren't. Now everyone's like back to like this super clean OEM look. And so, but it's constantly changing. And I was constantly changing the way my car looked based on sort of the trends or what I thought might have been cool, and sort of maybe you create a trend of your own or whatever. So I think I recognize that at an early stage, which I think has helped me now with my current business and how we've been able to scale so much. But I ended up going to an automotive tech school, Tech, and I went to that campus was in Blairsville, Pennsylvania, which is like the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
There's nothing there. There was a Sheetz gas station and like a McDonald's.
Really.
Like it was tiny town, little stuff. So, and which like we couldn't even live there in the town or at the campus. So the school had to deal with the closest town that had a college campus on it. And we were able to use their dorms at that college campus, which was IUP, which is the Indiana University of Pennsylvania. So I lived at their dorm campus, which is like, a 30, 40-minute commute to and from school every morning. Anyways. So, small town, graduated. Well, here's what's really funny. So I'm from Hilton Head.
Right.
And growing up on Hilton Head, you're like, man, this place sucks. There's nothing to do here. Just a bunch of old people, all this kind of, and that's like, and when you're 15, 16 years, that's your thought. You don't realize.
You could be anywhere. For the
That's
most part.
anyone's hometown sucks to them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But in my case, so I leave Hilton Head. I go to Nowhereville, Pennsylvania. And I was there for 18 months. I went this like accelerated program, got in and out of there super fast, top of the class, did really well. But like after my first winter there, like 6 months in, I was like, all right, this sucks. I'm going straight back to Hilton Head. Like
you had
all of a sudden Hilton Head's real nice.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, the beaches and the everything that comes with it.
Yeah. So I sort of knew in my mind, I was like, all right, I'm going back to Hilton Head because it's actually pretty nice there.
Yeah, for sure.
And you learn to appreciate it. And I was still super young, man. I graduated high school early. I had no idea how I managed to do that.
Yeah.
I was out of there at 17.
Wow.
I was graduated after the first semester of my senior year, like December or whatever that was.
Yeah.
And then by like March or something, I was in Pennsylvania. I was 17 years old. I was in Pennsylvania off to college.
So those 18 months crawled by if you were still a teenager in Pennsylvania when you were going to that school?
Yeah.
It had to be miserable.
It sucked because at the time, this is 2002. Actually, it would have been early 2003, I guess. And, this is before like Netflix and streaming and all this stuff. I was 17. Like, I couldn't even go rent a movie at the Blockbuster down the street because I wasn't 18. So I had to get this girl to open up a Blockbuster account for me so I could rent movies. I mean, it was just crazy.
Just to be entertained.
Even 17 at my maturity level at 17 is hard. When I look back at 17, I couldn't imagine being on my own. You know what I mean?
I think I was ahead of my time in that regard. Like I had a different mentality. I wasn't out trying to party. Like the The worst trouble I got in was just like street racing.
Right.
You know, I was just like car guy
Yeah.
stuff. You know,
Yeah.
like doing donuts
and
in
I
a parking
guess
lot.
You
And
put the rad in the rad dad.
That's
you had
right.
to do it at some point.
Rat dad. My thought, I guess, just going now thinking about my kids, because I got a 26-year-old and she's going to be 19 in November, at their maturity level, and thinking of them being on their own 17. I guess a little bit different for our time, or even back then.
I think it's a case-by-case basis, probably.
Yeah.
But you're probably terrified of your daughter being 19 and thinking of her on her own. Now, maybe she is on her own. And I don't,
No, she lives at home, and she's in college, hopefully going to enroll at USCB in Bluffton. But just like with any parent, her driving to Myrtle Beach to see her dad or her boyfriend scares me to death. She's in a 2006 Honda Element with
Yeah.
200-something thousand miles on it. Good tires, everything works well, but there's still the fear of the unknown of driving by herself, a single female.
at least, yes, but at least she has communication. And, like, that has progressed versus, like,
Yeah.
when I went to school, it's like I had my Nokia, like, whatever phone,
Yeah.
or maybe a Motorola Razr back then. It's probably the early, Razr.
Yeah. Well, shit, I lived in Germany for about 4 or 5 years, and there were times when I would just jump on the subway and go into town at 7th to 10th grade. No communication.
Yeah,
There's no way in today's world.
forget about
Yeah,
it.
no, not at all.
Anxiety instantly.
Oh, yeah.
For a parent, for sure.
Yeah, for the kid, no. It's
They're
freedom
like,
and- yeah.
see ya.
Yeah,
They're not,
I'll be good.
Nothing's going to happen to me.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
As you're jumping.
They couldn't
I-
get where they needed to go, though.
I skated at that point. And
Skating, yeah.
Yeah, skateboarding. So it was really big over there, and the subway system was there, and you'd take it right into town and, be home by the streetlight or whatever time that ended up being.
Uh-huh.
But, yeah, in today's world, there's no way.
No.
Yeah.
My mom had a pink Motorola Razr, and my dad had a red one. And
Yeah.
that was a really futuristic, sick-looking phone. Like, I felt like it was a data kit from Star Trek. Like,
Yeah,
you could
dude.
teleport on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. I had that, like, I guess what Apple would call space gray.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Some
It's
cool
like that
name.
gunmetal
Yeah.
color.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, so I was off on my own at a young age, and I'm sure my parents were terrified. My mom said she left crying, and, I was I wasn't terrified or scared. I was just, like, nervous. I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
From Hilton Head to basically Pittsburgh
Yeah.
at 17 on my own for the first time with, like,
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I met some really cool guys, and, we're in a school with a bunch of dudes that are there to mess
Yeah,
with cars.
exactly
Like,
right.
you're
Gonna
going to be
happen.
fine.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was a big learning curve, and I came back to Hilton Head, and I got a job at a local car shop, and it treated me really well. I was really good at my job, and I like progressed really quickly, and I made a bunch of money.
Yeah.
But I hated it.
Really?
But I hated it because it was like repair work, and I wanted to do cool stuff.
So
Yeah.
was it monotony aspect of it, or the fact that you weren't being creative?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wasn't being creative. I wasn't doing the things that I wanted to build, high horsepower, cool tuner stuff and turbos and, air ride and whatever else, cutting that stuff up and customizing it. And I was like fixing an oil leak in Mrs. Smith's Cadillac or something, you know what I mean? Or
Right.
or some squeak that I don't care about.
Yeah.
I don't care about your squeak. Like, can we do something cool to this thing?
Yeah. Let me fix
So,
the squeak, but at the same time.
Anyways,
yeah.
my mentality then is right now I'm 18. I've gone to school. I've come back. I'm like 18, maybe 19, and I'm like, I know everything. I'm on top of the world. I went to school for this,
Yeah.
and I was doing really well in that space. But I wanted to challenge myself in the creative aspect and do cool stuff that I wanted to do and just be challenged more in that regard. But so I'm like, well, I'm going to open my own shop. I'll do what I want to do. And I'm going to make so much more money. And it doesn't quite work that way. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like 19 and you're trying to figure out how to run a business and do all these things, and you've got to like really screw up a few times to figure things out and almost go out of business and all these different things. So I learned quickly that there isn't a real big custom car market in Hilton Head. And there isn't, those kind of guys that were into that stuff didn't have any real money to spend. They were like,
That's yeah.
I got this thing off eBay.
They're cutting their own springs, kind of a deal, and making those makeshift.
Yeah, I mean, like
mods.
the big mods were like installing a cold air intake from eBay, like that, and maybe some like an exhaust system, and then some
Right.
super cheap coilovers
Yeah,
or
yeah, for
something,
sure,
So, it was a struggle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was a big struggle, but I think that adversity really, and I dude, I put my head to the grindstone and just like was on it for years and years. I was just like too dumb to quit.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I'm gonna do.
Right.
I'm gonna be successful at this one way or the other. I'm just gonna like keep going until it works.
Yeah.
And maybe for better or worse, I don't know, but slowly but surely I got a reputation and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't know anything about advertising then.
Right.
Yeah, like the biggest thing I knew about advertising was like, make sure you're in the yellow pages.
Yeah. What was the name of your company?
It changed a few times. Initially, it was Beav Tech.
Okay. Which is a good placement. Where I was going was the placement in the phone book
Right.
itself.
A, B, yeah,
So you're right.
chronologically.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess alphabetically, not chronologically, but
Yeah,
alphabetically. So, yeah, it was like, it's like, you know what it is? That is like Google SEO.
Exactly.
You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It-
it is.
Yeah, yeah. If you're smart enough to
IRL
think of your name
SEO.
based on,
Which I didn't. I just,
yeah, it worked out.
I
but-
did Beav Tech because the V-Tech was like VTech and Hondas. So, like, that was the, like, to me, it was
That was
cool.
cool
And I
play
thought
words.
it might attract the people that I was trying to do work for,
Right.
like, with their custom Hondas. or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, for sure.
Anyways, so I did that for a while, and then 2008 hits, the economy tanks, and like the small amount of custom work I was doing was like, went to zero.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, this is bad. So then I had to really switch gears and go back to like service repair work and doing brakes and stuff that I was doing along the way as well. But I quit trying to even market myself as a custom shop because no one was spending any money on like that kind of stuff. And it was all about just like, these people just need to keep their cars on the road so they can continue to drive to work. So brakes and timing belts and and whatever, just service repair work. And at that point, I rebranded my shop to Bluffton Automotive.
Good name.
Yeah.
Great name.
It was a good name.
Yeah.
And that worked. It helped me get through that, and then that really kind of grew. And then the economy started coming back, and I got more and more reputation, and then people were starting to bring cool stuff back in again, and we were doing Skylines and Corvettes and blah blah blah, cool stuff. And then eventually that turned into a guy tracking me down to build some Land Rover Defenders, and that was a cool gig. We built some really cool, really high-end Defenders for some big-name people. And then I thought it'd be cool. Like, he was like, "Hey, man, I've got so many of these things lined up. Like, I'm just turning business down at this point. Like, would you consider doing more of these, or maybe just doing these for me, and like not doing your other, or like turn down Mrs. Smith and her Cadillac, and like let's build some more Defenders." And I was like, "How many of these things you got lined up?" And I was like, "Oh shit,
Yeah.
like we can make a real go at this." And of course, I'm like, "This is custom stuff. This
Right,
is cool.
it's
It's
right
high
where you want
end.
it
It's
to be.
really rad."
Yeah.
So I signed this deal with him. I go out, I get another, big 10,000 square foot shop and outfit it and new lifts and paint the floors and new lighting and make this really nice shop. And like probably 6 months into this, he goes like belly up, and he's like taking deposits from people to finish paying for doing it. It was a mess. Robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, "Hey man, where's these parts?" Because everything we were having to get was coming from England and imported and coming containers and complete vehicles we were importing. And, these things were like a couple $100,000 when we were done with them. They were a big deal. So it was just like a disaster of trying to organize things. And I was like, "Hey, where's these parts at?" He's like, "Oh, the container got held up in customs." Well, turned out there was no container.
Wow.
There was no parts. There was no, he was just like stringing this along. And once I kind of caught wind of that, I called my guys at the shop. I was like, "Hey, quit working. Whatever you're working on, quit working on. Like, I'll pay you. Don't worry about, like, don't work on anything else. This is a disaster." So that ends up like putting me out of business. I lose practically everything I had except for my house. I was out tens of thousands, like $60,000, the only little bit of money that I had, and it was out, it was gone, all of it, just gone. So, and at the time I had a second baby on the way, and it was a disaster. So I ended up having to go back to the same repair shop that I was working at when I first left college, and they were like welcoming me back with open arms, because I did really well there, and it was good for them. And also they were like, "Oh yes, we'd love to have you back. Anything you need, you just tell us." And they were awesome. So I went back to work there for a little while just to kind of get my feet back on the ground, put food on the table for the kids and all that kind of stuff. And in between all that stuff is when I had this idea for Tactical Baby Gear, and so we can get into Tactical Baby Gear and all that stuff if you want to do that too. But there's a time overlap there.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to get into the Tactical Baby Gear because that's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the bigger thing I
Yeah.
sort of wear as a thing of
As a
pride,
badge of
right?
honor, yeah.
The automotive thing was like sort of like, is like an identity. It's kind of like back when you were in the car stuff too. It's like
Yeah.
that car was your identity.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, oh,
Now
that's
it's
Sean's car.
Now it's the beard.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, now Tactical Baby Gear, right? So we are a worldwide brand, e-commerce only. We design and manufacture really cool military-style diaper bags for dads, baby carriers and stuff like that, so that dads don't have to get stuck with their wife's gear, right? And one of our taglines is like, ditch the girly diaper bag, and we have a few others, but it was born out of a necessity for myself. And when I found out my wife was pregnant with our second daughter, well, we found out she was pregnant, and then when we found out it was a girl, it was when I had this one. I was like, son of a bitch. I'm gonna have to carry that purple bag again. Yeah. And I was like super hands-on. So this is where the sort of the time overlap kind of comes in, right? And when I had my shop with our first daughter, my wife was working at the Harbortown Lighthouse. She managed that. She was there for like 15 years managing it, and she was there, and they closed with sunset in the summer, so she was there till 10, 11 o'clock at night sometimes, getting things closed down and da-da-da. So that meant I was like closing up my shop at 5:30, running down the street, picking up my daughter from daycare, coming home, doing dinner, doing bedtime. She's not home till 11 o'clock, right? So I had the diaper bag oftentimes more than she did, and even when we were together, it was like, hey, can you hold the bag? Hey, can you hold the bag? Hey, can you grab it? I mean, I was happy to do it for sure, but like every time you're kind of like, I hope nobody sees me.
Yeah.
I don't run into anybody I know,
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
Did they make that quintessential? Pink looks good on you, or purple looks good on you? Or,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure, but so the second time around, I was like, dang it, I got to carry this purple bag again. I do not like. If I'm gonna have to carry this thing somewhere, like, why don't I get my own bag? Like, what? Right. Who says I can't have my own? Yeah. Like, why do I get stuck with hers? So I go online. This is 2013. Okay. I go online and I'm like, men's diaper bag, cool diaper bag, anything. And nothing existed. There was no, there was black or gray of some bags, but they still just looked like a diaper bag. Right. Well, with my background in cars, and we did a lot of upholstery and things like that as well. And then my love for like the guns and the gear and that kind of stuff, I was like, I'm just gonna make like a really cool like tactical diaper bag. Like, this is gonna be awesome. I'm like, this actually sounds like a pretty good idea. So I like show my buddies and tell them, they're like, oh dude, hell yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm like, ding. Like, that's that light bulb moment. I'm like, okay, I'm solving this problem for myself, and turns out all my buddies feel the same way. Like, they don't want to carry their wife's flowery, girly, whatever diaper bag. So it was like, oh, and so when I realized I had that like aha moment, and I was like, okay, there's got to be a market for this, and so I went to Google searching anything similar to it to see if anything existed. Nothing. So I was like, all right, I got a real opportunity here. So I go to LegalZoom, and I create my business on LegalZoom. Yep. I couldn't even afford that. Like, you guys, I was so broke. Yeah. So like I had to make the like 5 payments over whatever to like pay the $700.
Got it. Yeah. No, of course.
Broke.
700, but yeah.
Like, so, and then so I do that, and then I went to Instagram, locked up that handle, Facebook, YouTube, anywhere that was relevant on the internet that I could claim Tactical Baby Gear, I did. I was up to like 3 in the morning. I was like, and I'm psycho like that. Like, I'm on a 1-track thing for anything
fixated.
that I have. I'm like, which is sort of, it's like a blessing and a curse. Like, a lot of things get neglected because I'm like, I don't care about anything else. This is it right now. Anyways, so I do that, and then it was just like, I built what's now like, an 8-figure business on Instagram, essentially, which is like bonkers. Like, I really started on Instagram. Now, obviously, we've had to scale that across lots of other platforms and a lot of media and ad spend and content creation and all that kind of stuff.
You had to grow with the internet. Since
We had to grow with the
2013.
internet, and what's hard about it, and you'll appreciate this, is just like over the years, there's been another platform. Now this is relevant, and this and this. So we really treat ourselves like a media company that sells a product, you know, and that's just how we think about it. So from our who would have thought that to have a diaper bag company, you'd have to have a podcast, or you'd have to, you know, do whatever.
Media production.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we do. Like, most of my staff is all like creative directors and copywriters and graphic designers and all these things, and you'd think we'd have like a bunch of people testing fabrics or something. Like, we have that too,
right, for
but
sure, right.
It's like, it's crazy.
It's the half that you don't imagine when you're thinking about running that type of business.
Yeah, you have, I mean, like our photo and video studio, just to like photograph our products to get them on the internet so they look correct and proper, or creating the product videos so that people, because like you're not in-store shopping being like, ooh, this is nice, I'll buy this. Like, you have to see this thing on the
Testimonials go a long way.
Reviews, all that kind of stuff.
Anytime I see your ad, I purposely read the comments first of all.
Yeah.
I don't click the dots and say it's irrelevant, even though it's not. I'm not into that. My kids are grown, but I still leave it because I want to see it. I want to first follow what you're doing and sometimes take direction from what you do, because I value you and your experience in what you've done with your business, and then take that and see if I can morph that into what we're doing. But I'll purposely go through the comments and read the comments, and you know, of course, there's obviously some negative feedback on the term tactical. You know what I mean? There's a lot of that.
It's a very polarizing thing.
It is, no, for sure. And then, you know, obviously the price tag is another comment, but the quality and the uniqueness of the product justifies. There's a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of knowledge and experience and ups and downs and trials and tribulations that you've had to deal with that justifies that price tag. But there's a lot of people that come to your defense. I love it. My husband loves it. I just bought it. I can't wait to see it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So there's a lot of people on your team.
For sure. Well, and a lot of that spawns too from, like, the price thing, for example. We use really high-end stuff, really premium products that go into making our bag, and then we also warranty and guarantee it. So, like, you have that as well, and then you're competing with, like, we've got plenty of knockoffs who've taken what we've done and knocked it off, and then they go and make a really cheap bag and throw it on Amazon or eBay or whatever for like $49, and all of a sudden mine looks like it's 3 times the price.
And there's like a million keywords in the name.
Yeah. Oh, it drives me. These keywords stuff the hell out of the title, and thankfully we have a lot of trademarks and we own a lot of these words and phrases, so we are able to legally battle them on that and get them all shut down, which is nice. It's frustrating to have to do that, but it's nice because, you know, some of these other big brands can't also knock me off in terms of names. They could make a product similar, but they can't call it a tactical diaper bag.
No, not at all. So yeah, and then the camo design itself, nobody owns that. Is that correct? Or
Correct. Yeah, ours is a sort of a similar pattern to multicam black, which is very popular.
Right.
The problem is, we would love to use the licensed pattern.
Right.
It's expensive.
Oh, I can
and
imagine.
It's just going to add cost to the bag and then on to the consumer. And our $150 bag is now $180. And
Right.
They don't, and everyone else, they already say it's too expensive. So, you know.
But I mean, obviously, there's a market for that, and
There's a market.
There's a certain family that you're going after. You're not going after.
Yeah, I mean, there's a consumer base for our price point,
Right.
and that one appreciates the quality of the product. They're not looking for the cheapest thing.
Yeah.
It's going to be around for many years and can be used for a lot of other things than just a diaper bag when you're done with it. But also that, like, we're the ones innovating it. Like, I'm up there cutting and sewing and making these things and innovating and trying and testing and all this kind of stuff. And then when we find a winning combination that we've spent a lot of effort and a lot of money on and resources, someone else just goes and knocks it off, and then they're going to try to, undercut us. And
Undersell.
and we've also, I think a lot of our success is due to the fact that we've built a community. Like, that's the one thing that people sort of lack in their efforts online, or even just in their business in general. They think that just because you tell them your business exists, that people are going to come flocking there to come buy their product or their service or whatever.
Right.
But if you don't build a community around it, you're really not going to go that far because anybody can make a pillow.
Yep.
But if you're, X, Y, or here's a great example, coffee.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You can get coffee anywhere.
Literally.
Anywhere. But you become Starbucks, and I hate to put these two in the same sentence, but like Black Rifle Coffee is a better example because they came after Starbucks
Right.
with a very specific message and a very specific niche target audience, and they're like killing it.
Yeah.
$50 million a year plus, and it's coffee.
Yeah.
Like something that you can buy anywhere, but they've created a community. Their digital presence is like unbelievable, and they engage with their customers, and
Right.
they're creating fun content. So I think as you build brand and community, like that's what stands out more than the fact that you sell a pillow.
Right. It's
you're
bigger
selling
than
a
that.
feeling. You're selling a lot of things more than just a product.
For sure.
For you, it's a lifestyle in a sense.
It is.
It's huge. You touched a little bit on them reacting or engaging with their customers, and I can't say how important that is for a business. I don't care how big you are to react and engage in a comment. When
I say I built this on Instagram, and that's all I spent my time doing.
Yeah.
It's like I'd made sure we had a good product, and then the rest of the time in the day until probably 1 o'clock in the morning, I was on Instagram engaging, replying, having conversations in the comments and DMs with people, getting people to share things and whatever else, but like genuine conversations, not just like, let me just reply to this to check the box to say
right.
You don't have like a
Right.
copy paste in a note.
like genuine replies and comments and conversations that help build those ambassadors for your brand that are going to tell their friends.
You need cheerleaders. Have you ever had a celebrity endorsement
Oh yeah, tons.
self-induced by them, meaning they bought the product in that, or in the beginning, did you ever say, did you do those grassroots connections? when
Yeah,
you
we
reached
did a
out?
lot of influencer stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
For sure. Especially the connections that I had in the automotive industry that I built through Instagram and that world. So my automotive career, let's step back to that. Like we ended up building these really cool, really high-end defenders for big name people that sort of created a lot of like international buzz. So people sort of started to notice me and who I was for what I was doing on that. But then as that kind of got screwed up and went out of business, and then I transitioned back to this old repair shop to kind of get things going. But then that only lasted about a year before I freaked out. I was like, all right, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
And I opened my own shop again.
Oh, wow.
So I went, and then I was doing like crazy resto mods and these like, old 59 Chevy truck
Nice.
with an LS3 bare metal, just
Wow.
like big crazy, like really cool stuff.
Yeah.
They got a lot of exposure. And this Defender, I just shared this Defender the other day. It was back in the shop. That was in Four Wheeler Magazine. We built a Volkswagen bus that set a world record, and like some really big things happened. So, I had gotten some friends, through Instagram and all this stuff that had big followings with hundreds of thousands of followers. So when I started Tactical Baby Gear, I sort of had these connections, and they had a baby, so I'd send them a bag, and they'd post it and shout it out.
Okay.
And this is early Instagram, chronological. Everything you posted was seen by everybody that was following you.
Yeah, no algorithms.
All that kind of stuff, and it was crazy. It was awesome. So I got a big following pretty quickly with that. And then as it got harder and harder, and algorithms, and
Well, we didn't
just
even
more
call
noise.
them influencers in 2013 and 14, and people didn't still have that much stock in social media as an advertising platform, as a platform for businesses and not just
It was almost a
individuals.
joke. It's almost like the Vine era when
Well,
those guys.
my whole business was looked like a joke because it was an internet business. So
Right.
I have
like
family
internet
members
dating.
and friends that are like, they're like, oh, that's cute. Oh yeah, and they're like, oh, can I bring my car? And I'm like, yeah, I don't work on cars anymore. Sorry. They're like, oh, how are you making money? I'm like, oh, the diaper bag thing. And
that
they're
cute
like,
business like that.
they're like, oh, you can actually make money like that? I'm like, yeah, I'm like making millions of dollars. I'm like, yeah, we're doing all right,
Yeah,
we're getting there.
it's almost like the faux pas of internet dating and how that was frowned upon. And I mean, but
Now it's the only way people do it.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
Not
They
the
would-
only
it's-
way,
but it's
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 a
one of the-
prominent thing.
I met my wife on Twitter. And,
You did?
Yeah.
I mean,
And,
it's bananas, and it's like, I think it goes back to other forms of it, like when and I don't know this for sure, I'm speculating, but it's like, would you have run your business and not put it in the yellow pages?
No, yeah, no, not at all.
It's like, well, what are you doing now with like,
Yeah.
like not having like Google listings
It kills
set up
me.
properly and
It kills
all
me.
that kind of stuff where
Yeah.
they just like, again,
Out of date.
someone said they should be on Instagram, so they started Instagram. They make a post once a month to check that box and feel like, oh, I'm doing the right
You've
thing.
got to be
They
consistent.
make the post and then they like close the app and they don't open it for
Yeah.
another month. They don't
Yeah.
reply to any comments. They're not, engaging with people. Any of that kind of
That
stuff.
happens a lot, especially with these small
All
businesses.
the time.
And it's hard enough to run a business as your own, as it is. But that's an important aspect. It's just as important as inventory or checking, your employees and making sure you got your staffing and all
Yeah.
that. It's highly important.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't prioritize communication to the world about your product, your service, what you offer, where you're
falling on deaf
located,
ears.
all that stuff, it's not going to last.
Yeah.
long.
No,
and that's
not at
how
all.
we communicate now.
Oh, it's a majority. Yes.
It's
That's,
crazy.
And then even as simple as your @ name.
oh my goodness.
And that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves or complaints is trying to find somebody's @ when I tag them through another channel that we do.
Uh-huh.
And it's nowhere near relevant to the actual name of
Because
the
it'll
business.
be like Beaufort Bookstore, and then their @ will be like @ Beaufort County Read and Learn .1259 @ AOL, and I'm like, what? What do?
Discover South Carolina used to be the worst. It was @ Get Out and Play. I
Yeah.
understand that's a tagline and that's a marketing, but that shouldn't be your @
Right.
Your @ yeah.
That's your business.
Oh, it's the
name.
worst
Anyways,
thing.
I digress. But yeah.
Yeah, you guys do a fantastic job. I mean, your videos are top notch. You've got a great team that works with you. Your brother works with you as one of many staff members
Sure.
that you have. And then your marketing, and then you got a Baja car that you guys sponsor, the go-karts.
Yeah, we got go-karts. We got stuff going on in different industries and little different pockets,
Yeah.
know, that people like, relevant demographic
Yeah,
activities.
yeah, for sure.
You
Right.
know what I mean? It's like, so they're not just seeing a Facebook ad, but they're out at a desert race and they're seeing it there. And
Right,
that
exactly.
maybe is like triggering them to be like, oh, what is this?
Yeah,
And,
exactly right.
So it gets exposure, on an in-person level of places that we wouldn't normally be able to be,
Right, exactly.
obviously.
Yeah.
In a really cool, fun way that's
Yeah.
like very non-traditional.
Not very
where it's, like,
non-traditional, yes.
Crazy trophy truck, race truck, desert thing. It's like,
Yeah,
and
truck's
then we've got 4 and 5-year-olds racing go-karts. It's like super cool.
Yeah.
That you helped us do
Yeah,
graphics
yeah,
for. and
yeah. That
raffle.
was fantastic.
Appreciate
Those
that.
things
things
turned out
awesome.
Turned out great.
One of them got trashed in like the first 2 races.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it's open wheel racing at its finest, especially at that age and those
Brothers
cars.
racing.
Exactly right.
And
Yeah.
5-year-olds.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
bumper
It's like
cars out of
exactly
nowhere.
what it is. They're deliberately trying to hit and
Yeah.
wreck.
But they're getting as the season has gone on, they've gotten a lot better. So
Yeah.
they're wanting to get those things cleaned up, and now he's like, oh, they're not hitting each other so much anymore.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
we should look at. He's like, I bought an extra set of body work to wrap, so he can like just. Wrap
Yeah,
those
for
and
sure,
slap them
right.
on.
And some of that media is not necessarily made for that kind of
No, of course.
aggressive. It's really more car wrap stuff, which
Yeah.
is just average everyday use.
Yeah.
Not on a go-kart track. Crazy. And those things are badass. I mean, they're decent size. Hell, my little ass could fit in one
How
of those
fast
probably.
those things go?
Dude, they rip.
And they're like this close to the ground, dude. So it's even.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the size. I mean, there's different size carts with different size engines for different weight classes. But these little kids' carts are going probably 50 or so.
Sheesh Louise.
In like you're talking about a 5-year-old, like
Oh, yeah.
ripping.
You're talking like their brain developed in the last 20
Yeah.
months, and they're out there making like millisecond long decisions.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Oh, it is crazy. What's crazy is they're capable of doing it.
No, yeah, for sure. And they have no fear
Right.
at that
Yeah.
age. I mean, so they've got the biggest balls in the world.
Uh-huh.
Just hitting them corners tight.
Not gonna have trouble merging onto the freeway when they're 30.
yeah.
16.
They learn not to be hesitant at all.
Yeah.
So we've talked baby gear. We've talked your past life. Before we get into the personal stuff, kind of like the movies and the music, your marketing. If you don't mind, what's your ad spend? What's your monthly budget ad spend?
Depending on the seasonality of the year, we spend anywhere from $150,000 to $230,000 a month.
Okay. Now is that one platform, or how is that allocated? Where do you
Everything. You cannot
collectively?
be
it's-
one-dimensional, right?
No, of course.
A bulk of it, 60% of it or so, is Facebook ads.
Okay.
So
Demographically, that's your majority of your audience. I would say age.
Yeah, and by Facebook, I mean Facebook and Instagram, right? So
Yeah,
for
for sure.
It's splitting
Understood.
across those 2 platforms because in Ads Manager kind of treated as one and the same, although
Yeah.
it's dynamic in how it serves these ads to people or whatever. So About 60% of that goes to Facebook, and then the rest of it gets allocated to Google Ads. We spend probably 40 grand a month on Google Ads, which is huge.
Yeah.
And we'll get into the weeds with this in a minute because I think might help you understand, but also people listening and watching who are interested in this type of stuff. Like we can get real particular and real, in the weeds with this stuff and like how we think about it and why it's effective and all that kind of stuff. But Google Ads, Pinterest is another one we spend money on because again, you're talking about babies and baby showers and all these things that women are on there searching for, and it's a lot of relevance there. And then we have influencer budget, and we have like sponsorships and that kind of thing. Yeah. Where else are we spending money? Amazon ads. We sell on Amazon, so we have Amazon ads.
Do you vet? Obviously, you vet your influencers in the sense to make sure they align with your brand or your mission.
Mm-hmm.
And are you discriminative in the sense that is it male or female? Does it matter? And do they contact you?
It doesn't matter. Yeah. Here's what's really cool. When you can get to a point, especially what's really neat about, maybe it's not just digital, but surveying your customers. Yeah. If especially if it's a strong brand and people who are willing to like take 2 minutes out of their day and like fill out this stupid survey because you probably get 15, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, another one of these stupid surveys. But if you can get them to actually answer these things, the amount of information and data you can collect and learn about your customers is unbelievable. So we surveyed, I don't know, we got several thousand responses. And we realized, and we found out through that 50% of our buyers are gift givers, and 50% of them are using it for themselves. The gift givers are primarily women, which makes a lot of sense, right? We get a lot of gift giving through the holidays and Father's Day and that kind of stuff, as well as like just any other day of the week or month that's, my husband would love this bag and we're about to have a baby, right? So a lot of gift giving. And then we have it broken down even by age where it's really interesting. But so to answer your question, no, it doesn't matter if it's male or female because one way or the other, if there's somebody having a baby and they're in this general age range, it can break down more than that, obviously, but there's a good chance. And then we sort of see if their audience is a good fit after that.
Right,
like,
for sure.
We check their demographics of their audience and like, okay, is your audience, first of all, are they in the U.S.? Like, yes, we're worldwide, but we prefer not to be as international as if we can help it just because shipping costs and problems and things like that. But just making sure they're in the U.S. and they're not fake followers, from like Indonesia or whatever. And then just age range, like, 18 to 34 is our sweet spot. If you have 55-year-old women as your core audience, like, this isn't going to work.
Right. Does their engagement percentage make a difference as well? So if you see someone that has, say, 45, 60,000 followers and they're only getting maybe 1,000 views on a video.
I used to look at that, engage that more because it was more systematic, but now it's harder than ever. And you even us, we think a good job, and sometimes our engagement's way down and we can't figure out why. So I can't knock them and be like, oh.
No, understand. Yeah, right. I was just curious.
But yeah, I mean, there are weeks
there's some
we'll
red
look
flags.
back, and be like, okay, there's an average. Yeah. In general, they get good engagement, or know that it's like, okay, you have 132,000 followers, but your pictures get like 150 likes, and there's like there's nothing there. Yeah. Yeah. So now maybe there's an opportunity just to trade them free gear for a post. And then somebody else might want $5,000. It's like you have to balance.
Yeah.
What that looks
So
like.
if somebody does want money, do they want the product as well? So it's kind of it's a double.
We have to send the product.
Product's got to go to them. They got to
be able to capture content with it.
And then there's an additional fee. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you were to give any small business any advice, what would that advice be?
I would take. So this kind of goes back to what I was going to touch on in why we spend money on all these different platforms. If your marketing is like one-dimensional and you're not taking like this full funnel approach, you're leaving a lot on the table. So I would consider like a full funnel marketing strategy instead of like, let's just run Facebook ads or let's try it once and then you're like, this didn't work. This is a waste of money. There's so much more to it. Like there's I'm going to try to prioritize what I'm going to say here because I have a lot to say about it. But the main point being, we run Facebook ads and Instagram ads for general awareness. We try to get people to convert from them, but we know, especially now there's a lot of sort of barriers now with iOS 14 updates on Apple iOS devices, and how much data is passed back and forth to be able to track whether somebody made a purchase or not, and all this kind of stuff. And that's a whole other thing that grinds my gears. They're tracking me. It's not. Did you purchase something from my website? Or that's the tracking. I need to know if my ads are working. So now, thanks, we lost that data. So now it's harder than ever to judge if a Facebook ad as an e-commerce brand is working. Now, for local businesses, like a lot of your customers are local businesses, you're not going to be able to. You wouldn't have been able to track conversions anyways. Right. So there's an element of going really basic, I spent this much money and I made this much more money, or I didn't. It's really simple. We spent money, we made money, or you didn't, And if you didn't, adjust, try something else, and see if that works. So some of that can be a 3-6 month process. It's not a 3-week thing. Can't get results like that. Anything meaningful, at least. So 1 is be patient. 2 is this full funnel approach. So, Facebook we use as a big general awareness, let's tell as many people about our brand as possible that might have interest in it. So we use a lot of different ways to target audiences and things like that to get in front of those people. But then we're really relying on Google searches and things like that, because they're at work, they're in the bathroom, they're scrolling, they see an ad, they're like, oh, this is cool. Maybe they like it, or they go to the website for a second, and then they're back to work, right? And later that night, they're, oh, hey, check out this cool bag I saw. And they're like, what was the name of that thing? So now they're trying to look for it again. So they're on Google. So we'll scoop them up there, So we look at everything as this, as a funnel. When I say funnel, I mean funnel. You got a top of funnel awareness, and then you have a middle of funnel, people who are warmed up, engaged with the brand, engaged with an ad, searching, whatever. And you have a bottom of funnel, which is people who are right there about to purchase, but they haven't quite purchased yet. Maybe it's an abandoned cart online. Maybe they came into your store, which you can track a lot of location-based stuff. There's a lot of neat softwares like that for local businesses. But if you've got them engaged and you've got them warmed up, and you just need to push them over the edge to make that purchase. That's that bottom of funnel before they purchase. So we really think about that, and the retargeting and that kind of stuff. So it's this full funnel approach where you're not just hitting this top of funnel Facebook awareness, but you're also, if they're Googling your business, can they find you? Are you easy to find? Are you ranking organically? Do you have a Google listing set up properly with the correct contact information? If they're going to land on your website from that, is your website worth a damn? Is it doing more damage than good? And I've seen many websites for many businesses. They better be better off not having a website at all than to have the garbage up or restaurants that don't have a menu on their website.
The wrong
Stupid
hours on their Google.
Right. Yeah, that.
Or mix match hours.
Yes, especially during COVID times where everyone decided to alter their hours but not tell the rest of the world. And you show up to a restaurant at 7 p.m. for dinner. It's oh, we closed at 5. You're like.
There was a retail location that had a sign on the door that said, phone us up if you want to come in and buy something.
Wow.
Yeah.
For me, it's the lack of communication from a client to us, because if, say, we have a small mom and pop, and of course they have the right, or they just want to shut down because they're dead, not letting us know. Mm-hmm. And then we inadvertently have something scheduled or whatever's going to go, and then it just causes more confusion and makes them look bad.
Right.
Not on our behalf, just because they didn't communicate with us. Lack of communication is huge. Just in any business, personal, any relationship, you've got to communicate. And it's even worse for us when it's everything. We have corporate clients that we deal with in Washington or Rhode Island, and if there's a snowstorm and they shut down, they need to let us know. It's not just Facebook anymore. It's not just Instagram. Yeah. It's a way of communication. That's how people are going to find you. And the first thing they're going to do, I went by and you were closed, but yet we had something scheduled to post at 1 o'clock about come and get a cheese sticks, whatever it is. Yep. And then they can't fulfill that obligation. So for me, that's one big frustration would be lack of communication. It doesn't matter who it is, even if you have somebody internal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So let's shift a little bit. I know we've talked a lot.
I can keep going. So
I know.
I'm sorry.
I know. No, you're good. I do too. It's great conversation. So let's shift into music.
Okay.
Favorite band. Let's start not as broad, not as detailed. So favorite genre of music.
I'd say, more in the punk rock stuff. I'm a drummer.
Okay.
So, and grew up listening to a lot of like Social D, Bad Religion, MXPX,
Yeah.
NoFX,
Nice.
those guys.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Okay.
So that's my favorite genre.
Okay. So, do you have a favorite band? Let's say a favorite band within that genre first.
That's tough, man.
Yeah.
I love music, and I couldn't tell you any new current modern band
Really?
at all. Like everything I listen to is old stuff that like.
So
I've
your
been listening
playlist
to.
is
It's still
nothing
like I was
new.
listening to my Bad Religion playlist on the way here. You know what I mean? It's just like, and it's like Social D and NoFX and Rancid and all those bands that are just
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Mine. MXPX I think is up there as one of my favorites because they're still going at it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you are familiar with MXPX.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Like Mike Herrera.
Yeah.
And those guys are just still after it. They've kept up with current
They've adapted.
strategies.
Yeah.
You know, they're doing live concerts on Facebook
Yeah.
from their living room.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. So
Unlike
it's like,
Metallica or anybody of that age that they just kind of lay dormant.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we'll collect, you know,
Royalties.
money from people using our music on TikTok or something. You know, but like they're still after it. They're still doing it. I just love that. They have like staying power. You know,
They
and
persisted.
They're still hungry. Like that's what's really cool. Is like I don't think they need to be doing it.
Right.
But you can tell they're doing it because they love it.
Yeah.
And I think it's really
I think you can tell when an artist, and I'm not going to use the term sold out, but when the love for it is no longer there, as a fan, you can feel that. Favorite band outside of that genre? Is there anybody else? Say country. Do you have anybody country that even the wife?
I don't know. I mean, there's some country people that come to mind, but only because they're like customers. Like Brantley Gilbert's a customer, and he's a big advocate for us, and the guys like that.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell you any of his music or
Right,
songs.
right. Hopefully he's not watching.
Hopefully he is. That'd be awesome if we got him to watch the podcast.
Yeah.
Or listen to it.
So any hip hop?
Give me this clip, and we'll send it to him.
Yeah, we'll send it to him. Yeah, I'll send it to you. Any hip hop or R&B artists?
I'm a big fan of hip hop stuff, but again, I couldn't like old school like rap stuff. Like,
Yeah, Biggie, Tupac, that kind of old school, or even farther back
like that,
than that.
even like Outkast and
Oh,
Dr.
yeah.
Dre.
Yeah.
That kind of like.
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
like dude, Dr. Dre,
Yeah.
Chronic 2001. Come
Oh
on.
yeah,
Classic.
yeah. You can't beat that.
Everything I listen to is old. I don't listen to hardly anything new. I'm like stuff comes on. I'm like my daughter singing. I'm like, what
Yeah.
the hell is this?
So I'm not
I
big
feel
on
like such an old man.
some of the new hip hop.
Happens quick.
It's you know what I mean. Everybody, the Lils and all these other. Everybody's a Lil
Yeah.
Uzi and Lil Yachty and all these other
You
Lil
don't need a
Xan.
record deal anymore.
Yeah, you
just put it out
don't.
there.
Yeah, you just put it up, and I mean it's great for the artist and musician. There's
It
so
is.
many talented people.
The internet, you know, and I'm gonna sound probably like a broken record to anybody that listens to Gary Vee, but it's like the internet has cut out the middleman.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it has.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You sell yourself now.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, if you have SoundCloud, you don't need MGM or any of these other record companies or Dr. Dre or
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you don't need your
Direct
avenue.
to the
is-
consumer.
Yeah, you get a viral TikTok, you're golden. That Tejas Verdes guy was working at Verizon, had a hit song, and he's done. He
Is that stuck in the middle guy? I think
Yeah, I
Alexis,
believe so.
You showed me that song, and I showed it to her because
Yeah.
I knew she'd like it, and now she listens to it when she's
Yeah,
driving to work.
I mean,
with
dude,
her
there's
Demi
so many.
Lovato or whatever,
My
you know?
my FYP page on TikTok is a lot of musicians, videography, photography tips, and every now and again a couple sad stuff.
you spend time on TikTok?
From a consumer or from a
Just
little. I've gotten more just because it's a fun time for me to sit and unwind.
Mhm.
So if I allocate maybe an hour or less a day is really where I'm at with that. I'll sit on and we're laying in bed, wife's on hers and I'm on mine with the headphones in, showing each other things. So I do spend time, yes.
Yeah.
There's some useful information on there. So many talented people.
Yeah, a lot of tips and tricks always.
That's
Cool
kind of what
stuff.
Do
mine's.
you find yourself opening up to it more? Like I was so, you know, like you have the same relationship probably with social media as I do. You view it from a business standpoint and then a personal standpoint. And TikTok is one of those things where I'm like, okay, as a business, I need to figure out how to be on this platform. Where does my brand fit in this platform, and how do we create content and communicate to people in this way? And on the personal side of it, I just want to throw my phone against the wall.
Yeah.
Like, I hate this thing.
Yeah.
But as it's grown and elevated and aged up from like dancing 13-year-old
Lip
girls
service, yeah.
to like everything, I find myself more willing to watch it. Especially we've had some videos hit like millions of views, so I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Basically short form YouTube at this point with the 3-minute videos, and most people editing outside of TikTok anyway.
Yeah.
And it's not all just like lip syncing and dancing. Like when it started, it was, what was that, Musically? Was
Yes.
the app that it was? It was basically just Musically
Yeah,
again,
exactly.
and then memes and all that started coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun seeing the growth of it and how it's changed and the popularity of it and the creativity that people are coming with this
It's
thing.
insane.
I mean, it's
What's so crazy to me is like my 10-year-old daughter, like it's so intuitive for her. Like she could pick up my phone or her iPad or whatever and like get on there and make like a TikTok video. Like it's just an intuitive process for her. And I'm like, how do I do this stupid?
yeah,
It's
exactly
so
right.
frustrating.
So we didn't talk about dad life. So first, congratulations on your third
Thank you.
daughter.
Another
So
daughter.
3 girls.
Lucky me. Girl dad.
Yeah.
Rad dad.
Red. Yeah, batting 1,000. Best part about being a parent.
You know, I think it's really cool and it's rewarding to see them grow and to like learn things and skills and like those proud dad moments are the coolest ones. Like some of my early sort of memories of that for my kids were my oldest daughter in gymnastics, and it was like, holy crap, she's really good at this. You know, and she went on, she was competing at a national level, state level, and she was, first, second, third place at like state competitions, things like that. I'm like, dang, she's like really good at this. This is cool, And then she just like, she got burnt out with it and quit doing it.
Yeah.
That was
And the
sad,
fact,
but-
you hate to see that, but at the same time, you don't want to be the one that's gonna a tiger parent that's gonna push them, and you got to do it because it's
now there's the side of it too. It's like you can't quit doing this until the
See it
season's
through.
over
Yeah,
or the whatever. Like you can't just I don't want to do this anymore and quit. You're gonna have to finish.
See out
But
your
then you
commitment
can
at
try
least.
something else. You know what I mean? So there's a balance there for sure.
So, what would you say is the most challenging part of being a father overall?
Following through. For me, it is. And I think it is for a lot of people, which is why you see a lot of just bad behavior, because it's easy to tell your kid, if you do this, I'm going to do that, or you've got to do this before you can do that, or, whatever the case is. And most people, it's hard to follow through. And I quit using examples that I couldn't control. Right. Like, hey, Santa's watching. If you don't, like Santa's not going to come. Yeah. We all know Santa's coming. Right. Generally speaking, Santa's coming. So it's like I quit using those examples because it was like this isn't going to teach them anything. Like it gets them to go to bed that night or whatever the problem is, or if you don't brush your teeth and Santa, whatever. I don't know.
It's like a Band-Aid.
It's a quick fix. It's like you're holding this big scary thing over them, but the other side of it is just I'm trying to think of a good example right now, and I don't have one, but I just think following through with whatever it is that you say you're going to, like, if you don't clean your room, we're not going to this birthday party. Right. And you've got 15 people there that told them they were coming, and you've already bought presents, and like whatever the case is, and like you're going to the birthday party.
Do you find yourself, and communication again with the spouse is huge on that, and do you both align on that same thing? So has there ever been a scenario that either she's wanted to give in and you didn't, or vice versa?
All the time. Yeah. A lot of it comes to communication, and then the other side of it comes down to like just pure will and how much shit they're willing to deal with or not.
Yeah. There's obviously repercussions from you standing your ground.
Yeah, dude, it's tough. Like you end up putting yourself in a really crappy situation a lot of times to follow through. Or to not give in. Maybe that's even another side. It's sort of the same thing as like not giving in to their temper tantrum because they want this thing or they want that or they they want dessert or I don't know, whatever it is. And a lot of times to stand your ground, like, it just sucks.
Yeah.
It just it
So,
sucks.
and I'm gonna tell you, it doesn't get any easier. It's funny to me listening to your examples, and as important as they are, the example that I could easily give you would be something completely different with something more concrete from a vehicle standpoint. You know what I mean? Granted, it's you don't do this or you do this, then therefore now you have to pay car insurance.
Right.
Because you made this decision. You're old enough now to make that decision on your own, and you're going to do this. So there, in turn, I'm not covering your car insurance any longer. That's exactly it's exactly what just happened.
Right. But you have to follow through.
I did.
Yeah.
So Kelly
what
and
I
I had this conversation, and then I messaged my daughter, "Hey, do you have X amount of dollars in your bank account ready for this insurance?" And she did.
It's like that decision benchmarked you to a certain level of responsibility, and now everything else had to be pulled up equally with it, not just that one little portion that was something fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So there, it doesn't get, easier. Obviously, until they're out of the house. My son's 26 in Austin, and
I don't think it ever gets easier.
No.
You know, like, even for my parents, I look at my mom. She's a saint. She's like an angel, and she's like unlike any other person I've ever met.
Yeah.
But she still worries about us. She still does certain things, and I'm like, how do you still do this? Like, so I'm sure it's gotten slightly easier for them, and now that all of us are 30 plus, but-
my son, he works in Austin. He was working at home a lot, obviously through COVID. But I'll text him. I don't hear from him for 8 hours. I'm nervous. I'm worried.
Really?
Dead in the ditch. Midnight. He'll text me, and I'll wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh shit! Did Blake ever text me? And I'll look at midnight. Oh, sorry, because I have my phone do not disturb from 10 till 8 in the morning. And then he'll text, and I have relief. I can literally go back to sleep. It's ridiculous. Grown ass man.
I'm gonna be the same way for sure.
Dude.
Girls,
Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
Three cute little blonde girls.
Yeah. My daughter, when she
Dude.
made her 2 trips to Myrtle Beach, and the whole time until she'll communicate with my wife, her stepmom, more than me. So she'll message her. I made it, just to make sure she's there.
up, man.
So we talked music. Obviously, there's not a particular outside of your space that you deal with. Justin Bieber. Do girls love him? Your daughters are.
There was a song at one point that was popular that was playing,
Yeah.
but they're not.
They're not. What are they listening to? So let's say a normal car ride. Whole family's in the ride.
Yeah, we listen to a lot of Kids Bop.
Really?
My kids
What
are
Kids
young.
Bop are
still.
they
Yeah.
on?
No, of course.
They're still
70. I don't know.
sheesh.
I don't know. It's up there, but it's
Yeah.
good. Like,
Oh
I don't mind
no.
listening
Yeah.
to
For
it,
sure. Right.
You
right.
know, but
Yeah.
like I'm trying to think of some of this. It's just a bunch of Kids
Yeah.
Bop like remakes of like
Oh yeah. Did pop.
old
Yeah.
stuff or current stuff
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
It'd be harder to bopify the music.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah. Well, some
Um,
of the language too. You're like, how are they gonna redo the
Yeah,
words?
Right. For
exactly.
sure. Yeah.
You're like, man.
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's go to movies. Favorite type of movie? I mean, what genre? Is it action? Is it?
I detect the not much of a movie guy.
Well, yeah, because I just don't have time to watch
Yeah.
movies. I haven't. I made my kids. My wife went out for her birthday a few weeks ago with some girlfriends, so I stayed home with the kids. So it was movie night. So we watched Mrs. Doubtfire.
Love it.
Classic.
Yeah.
Dude, I love that. film.
Classic. Robin
Yeah.
Williams. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
I mean, it just goes to show you what the extent of what a dad would do to spend time with his kids. Right?
Yeah, right? Dude, my kids got a kick out of it.
Yeah. And isn't it fun having them watch things for the first time and then seeing their reaction?
Yeah.
It's like vicarious living. That's what I do.
Well, they like ask a
You go the
million
same
questions.
way.
I'm like, keep watching.
Yeah.
Like, why is this? Why that? I'm like, just keep watching.
I think he was about to mention my girlfriend has seen no films ever. So
Really?
every time I show her something, I get to experience it again.
In a
Different.
different household. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Not just any
Sheltered.
particular kind of movie. It's like all movies.
All movies. When I said like, what pops in your head when I say The Matrix? Absolutely nothing. Like nothing. No actor, no concept, green numbers. If I said the same thing about anything, if I said The Terminator, RoboCop, Die Hard, even 16 Candles,
Nothing.
there would be no light bulbs for any of them, which is devastating for her. But it's fantastic for me when I'm like,
Yeah,
are you
ooh,
ready
let's
to
watch it.
experience The Matrix?
Yeah.
And you don't even know anything. You don't know any spoilers. You don't know about red pill, blue pill, nothing. Like you haven't even been exposed to it. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Because now most people would at least know from pop culture.
Oh yeah. All
You know what's
references.
interesting about it though? So like I don't watch a lot of movies because I don't have time, and I'm just like a workaholic. And if I have time to watch a movie, I'm gonna be working. I'm gonna be like replying to DMs or doing work stuff or whatever. But when I watch a movie with my kids, they're so used to fast-paced content from TikTok, YouTube, that kind of stuff. They don't have the patience for like. They're like 4 minutes into it. Like, when does it get good? I'm like, we're just like setting up
It's
right
the
now.
establishing. It's the establishing shot.
Yeah, like let's this is gonna be like an hour and a half to 2 hours. So like,
I don't
patient.
associate that with kids. As an adult, I understand that, and I see where we live in that generation. I guess I mean it's no different for kids now that I think about it. Yeah, that sucks. I mean, because does that? So, are we going to get to where movies aren't as long as they are? You're not going to have. Yeah.
I don't think that'll happen. I mean, filmmakers and I don't think Hollywood won't let that happen. You know,
They're always going to be like,
because I mean, you can create such an elaborate thing over an hour and a half to 3 hours. Some of these awesome movies that are so long.
Then you got the Marvel movies who solved it, where it's just packed front to back with nonstop.
Well, and
funny
it doesn't give you a
explosions.
chance. Those that are like fast paced the whole thing. You don't get a chance to like breathe and digest what just happened and kind of get set up for the next thing, which is
Not my particular. There's so much animation, and I mean the technology is astounding. It's nice to look at technologically, but it's crazy on the eyes. It's like this is just an animated.
it's just too much.
Yeah, you get out, your heart rate's
Overload.
elevated from watching the movie, and you're just like in cold
Yeah,
sweat.
It's like sensory
It's like an
overload,
80s
yeah.
video game commercial. My hair's blasted back. Like I was like, whoa.
It's like 4D movie.
Did you watch the Adam Sandler movie where he was the was it Uncut Gems? No, that's
Uncut Gems is when he was like a jewelry.
yeah.
So like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore,
Anger management.
Waterboy is where I started to lose.
Yeah, it's a little.
Waterboy. You know, like all this, like it just got obnoxious, and I just couldn't.
It's like Kathy Bates, but
And then there was
Not
what was
enough.
the other one? Little Nicky. Or,
Lil Nicky cannot stand.
that character, Adam Sandler, and this like obnoxious, like mostly he's always been sort of obnoxious, but like it wasn't. It didn't seem, maybe it was my age, but like Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison were toned down. Those were two like movies that will never die.
He still played people in those movies.
You need to. Have you seen The Cobbler?
No.
Which Dustin Hoffman has a part in it. You need to watch that because it's not typical Adam Sandler. It's not as even as cheesy as Click, which was a remote, and
I remember that thing.
which I just watched the other day. But The Cobbler is one, so look that up. And it's where he puts on shoes and becomes that person, and he gets to live in the life of that person.
Literally walk a mile in those
Yeah,
shoes.
it's really a good movie.
Uncut
Dustin
Gems
Hoffman.
is really. If you don't like the Sandlerisms that he's gotten into, I mean, he's not. It's not an Adam Sandler.
Where I was going with that was the the soundtrack and the way that makes you feel. It's not for everybody because it will give you the anxiety driven. It's really
grating.
anxiety driven. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those two would be the two that I'd recommend.
Like I don't have any favorite movies. Like well, that's not true. I do have some other favorite like classics like The Goonies. And then I'm trying to think of some other like real good classics that aren't like Ace Ventura and stuff that was like these like
Christmas
classic
Vacation?
childhood movies.
Yeah.
I just don't watch a lot of movies anymore. Yeah.
So what was the last, from a theater standpoint, maybe pre-COVID, obviously? What'd you go see?
We went and saw The Grinch
Oh, really?
The new
Yep.
animated one that came out.
like a couple years ago.
Yeah, which I haven't seen that.
And it was pretty good. My kids, even then, were too young to like sit through a full movie, and I think they got scared partway through because there was like some scary stuff
Imagery.
for kids.
Yeah.
And they were like, and my youngest was crying. They're like, my youngest, one of them's like super sensitive and like, so they were crying and they're like, all right, well, we're out of here.
I saw the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider in theaters when I was a kid. I think that's the last movie I saw with my dad in a movie theater. I haven't seen my dad in a long time. And at the end, I mean, it goes full-on horror. It's not a comic book movie. There's some guy like, I'm releasing 100,000 souls of the damned, and he has like 200 teeth. And I was literally like 9, like, we gotta go, Dad.
Isn't
Chad,
it
we gotta
funny,
get out of here.
the movies that we watched as kids versus like what we would let our kids watch?
Oh yeah,
now?
for sure.
Oh,
yeah,
not
yeah,
even the
not even
same
close.
way.
My kid, I'm not letting them eat a raw hot dog. I'm sitting here with a water hose, water, and a hot dog at the same time.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just.
unexposed sun with no sunscreen for 14
What did I-
hours.
And I think it might have been a Joe Rogan quote or a Joe Rogan clip to where you're breeding, and I'm not going to use the term weak, but you know what I mean? There's physical aspects. So we were raised a certain way, and therefore we're going to raise our kids a certain way. Therefore they're going to raise their kids a certain way, and it's a stair-stepping.
Yeah, we're like distilling down into a particular way.
Speaking of music, here's a funny one. The Jeffrey Bezos song.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, the Bo Burnham.
By Bo Burnham.
Yeah, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
So my kids were weird. That came up. I don't know if I was scrolling through Instagram or TikTok. It came up, And I was like, do you guys know who Jeff Bezos is? They were like, no. I was like, he's the one that started and owns Amazon. They're like, Amazon? I'm like, like all the stuff mom buys and shows up at the house.
Yeah.
They're like, he gets all the money. I'm like, yeah, he gets all the money.
You got it, basically.
And then they were like, so like, I was like, yeah, he gets all the money. He's like the wealthiest person ever, And they're like richer than you. I'm like, I'm not that. My kids think that like
He's a
I'm the
couple
richest guy
brackets
ever.
higher.
Yeah.
So and I'm like, he has a spaceship.
Literally.
And
Yeah, no, that's
you
actually
could watch
crazy.
their like brains try to like unwind and like unpack what I just told them, and they were like,
I mean, could you imagine if some rich guy just had a spaceship, just whenever in like 1995?
well, that's like the new hobby between Richard Branson and Elon and all, like. I mean,
Like
I
the
think Elon
private
Musk is
space race?
doing it better than anybody.
Oh, I think so too.
I mean, he's ahead of it. He's sent
like the
tons of stuff.
recoverable rockets and stuff like that is super interesting.
It's
You
so
seen his
crazy.
kid's name?
Oh yeah.
Elon Musk's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The symbols and stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Kelly was telling me this morning.
I think he's an alien.
He didn't
Him
have
and-
time to study the subtleties of being a person before
Yeah.
he slipped
Yeah.
into
He's
the
so
skin
interesting.
suit.
I love to watch podcasts and stuff with him. And when he was on Joe Rogan, like the first time, and like you could see like his brain working and like calculating and computing his answers before he would answer it. And then like the second time, he was a little more chill, but it's so interesting because he'll like pause and like really understand, or he's trying to figure out how to like dumb it down so that we can actually understand what he's trying to say, because I'm sure his thoughts are way more complex. And he's super funny and like he's hilarious. He's like this weird dry humor. I love it.
I need to
does sound
watch.
very dry.
I know there's something on TV. I don't know if it's HBO or Apple TV, but there's a documentary about him, and I
Elon.
think and how why SpaceX started. So
Mm-hmm.
I've got it kind of queued up. So when I get some time, I'm gonna watch it. So not to go, not I'm gonna try to make myself relax more. I purposely, when I get up at 6 in the morning, I'll have my coffee and just kind of. Typically I would just go straight to work because I got so much I got to do. I'll go in the office, sit down. I've got a ton of stuff that needs to get done all the time. So, but I've started to specifically give time to myself and try not to work after a certain time at night, whether it's 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night, and then before a certain time in the morning.
You're like manually decompressing.
I have to, because if not, I mean, work is work. I enjoy it too much.
Yeah.
I'm addicted.
But it'll become work.
Yeah.
And it's not fun and it's
Yeah.
not sustainable.
Yeah, right. So, and it's having so many balls in there, so many clients, or so many to-dos is what's challenging.
Deadlines and deadlines and deadlines.
Yeah. What did you say? So we did a day in the life of, and I'd asked him how was today. He said, just like any other day, we were doing things while we were doing things.
Yeah, doing stuff. Putting out fires while putting out fires.
Well,
while
it's
putting out fires.
multitasking, just like nonstop, which that's one of the biggest things I've tried to stop doing is multitask, because it's like you chip away at a bunch of these little things, but like nothing ever like actually gets accomplished. And now I have very high level things on my plate now, but then there's like a few like really nitty gritty things I end up having to do. But it's like, so because my tasks are so big now, it's like I try to get 2 to 3 things a week done. Like if I can check these 3 things, I've won. And it used to be like, 10 things a day I need to get done. It's like, if I can get 3 things done this week, awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, from a mental standpoint, that helps, and you can be more focused on those 3 things as opposed to 10 things and given.
It's hard to do,
Doing a
especially in
10
your
for 10
shoes where you're a smaller operation. And I mean, I've got 11 employees over there. It's like I'm delegating. Like I used to edit the video and do the thumbnail and do this and all these nitty gritty things. Come up with the idea, write the copy, and then also like work with my business partner on the finance or inventory. Or now it's like, you handle this, you handle that. I've got an assistant, so she's like scheduling things and whatever for me. It's like I don't even have to do that anymore. So it's like really focus on these 3 things that are very high level that make a big impact on the whole company, not just cool. I got this YouTube video done.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, I think, for a goal for 2022. Ideally, I'd like to bring somebody else in. For me, the challenge is being trustworthy, or someone that I can trust, because you show them the inside and the ropes and what they can do. And in this world and in this community, they're quick to just leave you and create something similar to what you're doing.
Especially if it has a low barrier to entry.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right, right. Not that, over time, I've invested in some gear and things like that, but there are other things that anybody could do, as long as you've got the drive and a little bit of the sense to do it. So those are challenges that I want to kind of overcome next year. I want to allow me to work a little bit less, hopefully, or focus more on things that I want to do if it's a passion project, or be more creative on our side promoting what we do. Some of the small 5 tips or whatever that is, that came about, which I don't mind giving away free information, obviously, because there's really no market for classes anymore, I don't believe, because everything online, anybody is easily and readily available.
It makes you the authority in the space,
Right, exactly. Yeah.
where it's like anyone else. Like I think about this all the time. If I was going back in the car business, for example, I would try to show and teach everybody how to fix their own car, so they didn't have to bring it to me, which would then create and cause everyone to bring their car to me.
Right.
Because like, oh, this guy knows. Like, I'm not going to go try to figure this out.
Right, they're going to sit
I'll
there and
take
watch
the-
it, and they're going to try to consume that information, then realize whatever that is. And that's kind of what what we do from a social media standpoint is not for everybody. Not every business justifies having someone do it for them. Just because some of the information it's just worse. It takes more time to tell me what's happening versus you have somebody in there, you do it yourself. So we understand that. I don't try to go after every business. I just can't.
Yep.
We've been real lucky with the municipality aspects of it, the Chamber of Commerce's, some of the bigger clients, and we still do a lot of handful of small business owners, but they're restaurants or a few other places here in town. So for Tactical Baby Gear, is there anything in the future that you're working on that you think you may not have to talk about, but is there anything that's going to happen? Are you making changes to adapt?
It's interesting you say that, because that was one of the things I talked about with changing with the trends with cars, right? Is changing with the trends, and a lot of that kind of boils down for us into like design changes of our product. Whether is tactical stuff still in, or is it going more in this direction or that direction, or these colors or that color. So we're constantly changing and adapting to some of those sort of stylistic trends, but then also trying to stay on top of the trends of what social platform is prominent, and where are people's eyeballs, where's the attention at. So we're those are things we're adapting to as well on a regular basis. But yeah, I mean, otherwise they're just like business as usual, and just trying to like be a media company and adjust.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of pivoting.
It is.
And it's a lot of committing to something for a period of time and being willing to change and adapt and recognize that this isn't working, let's try something else.
Right. Giving yourself enough time to realize that it's not going to work, not just throwing in the towel
You have
too
to
early.
commit to like 3 months or some period of time that's like like we really gave this a crack for some period of time. It's not working. And then making micro adjustments along the way, whatever that might be, for your business. But it's like, okay, this seems to resonate more. Let's do a little bit more of this.
Right.
Even if that is better, and at the grand scheme of things it didn't work, like be willing to just recognize and trash it and lose it, and just move and try something. Like if you're not constantly trying new things, like when you talked about our advertising budget, we have like a 2 or 3% of that budget is allocated to just testing. Just trying stuff, throwing stuff at the wall. Holy smokes, that actually works, or whatever the case is. So just testing and trying and learning is like always a big thing to do.
And obviously, for your budget, 2 to 3% is still a lot more than probably a lot of other small businesses. But still allocating money, people should allocate a percentage. What percentage would you recommend a small business allocate towards advertising?
A small business.
And I say small, and I know the definition of a small business is a couple $100,000 a year or whatever. So I'm thinking even smaller than that. So say
It's hard because depending on the different businesses, there's different amounts of profit there. Like some people are operating on 10% profit, and other people are operating on 30% profit. So it's really hard to put a number to that. But if you're like a direct to consumer, like I can only really speak to my business because I don't know a lot of the other ones. I would say as much as you can, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 10% or more of your revenue. You know, so if you make 30 grand a month, try to spend 3 grand a month on advertising.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of where I was going at. And 10% was kind of in my head, and that's what we kind of preach. And again,
There's two sides of it too. There's like how much money can you spend or to maintain, right? Without your business dwindling down and declining. It's like, will 8% maintain your current business level? Do you want the business to grow? You're gonna have to spend more money to get it to grow, to get more eyeballs, to do whatever. So there's like, are you in a scaling growth mode of advertising and marketing? Well, you probably need to spend like 20 or 30%. Right. Or do you just need to maintain business status quo for the next, and you just, hey, I want to do 300 grand a year for the, for life of the, like 10%?
I just had a thought. I almost think of like a caloric intake. You're trying to maintain your weight. You need X amount of calories a day. If you're trying to bulk or grow up, then you increase that caloric intake. And
Bulking season.
Yeah.
Cultivating mass.
Yeah. So one question I ask everybody, kind of a two thing.
Yep.
How do you define success?
Okay, so it's not about money for me at all. Okay. Not one bit. Money's great. Right. The side of it though is like my KPI metric, key performance indicator. My metric for success is, am I having fun doing it?
Oh, yeah.
Period. Am I happy? Am I having fun? Is this what I want to be doing? Right. Generally, if you're doing what you want to do, money will follow that. I had a customer tell me once in the car business, and I'll try not to be long-winded on this one too, but he said, I keep coming back because I can tell you're honest, one, and two, you're not trying to get rich off of me. And he was like, if you maintain this mentality, you will have success. He's like, strive to have success and the money will come. Right. Don't try to get rich off of each individual customer. And that, I don't even remember who told me that. It was a customer. Yeah. And it was the best advice I ever had. I was like, okay, focus on just having a successful business and the money will come. Right. It's like, so I look at it as having fun and the money will come. And then making money affords me the ability to keep having fun. Right, exactly right. I mean, how am I going to buy a helicopter, without having the money?
No money.
So going off of that, I would assume that you would consider yourself successful.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think I check the bucket of success in multiple different definitions that people tend to have, whether it's, okay, you're clearly having fun doing this and you're financially successful and, whatever else, but yeah, a huge audience.
Yeah, exactly right. And that not getting rich off everybody's kind of been my approach initially, and that's not necessarily quantity over quality, but it's still offering a good product or a good service to as many folks as I can. Because I'm a small business, as are they, I'm not trying to break the bank for them because they're struggling on a daily basis to make money, pay their bills, pay their employees, whatever that is. I'm just trying to help them and earn a dollar at the same time. A lot of our stuff, take out the sign shop aspect of it, everything else is just labor. It's my time that I'm investing, or Tony's time.
I've had interesting thoughts over this recently because I do some consulting and stuff, and I found myself exchanging money for time instead of like exchanging money for value. Yeah. And I'm dealing with people who have a lot more money to spend and have bigger budgets, when they're asking me for help. So you find yourself being like, I'll give you X amount of hours for this much money, and this is what I'm going to do in that time, versus it's going to cost you this much, and I'm going to increase your business by X, which means you're going to make far more money than what I'm charging you. Right. Do you see the value in it or not? Because otherwise, I got other shit to do. Yeah. Right. That's harder to do as a small business working for other small businesses.
Yeah, for sure. Right, exactly right. And there's steps and elevations, and it changes. The more revenue that you have coming in, you can adapt and adjust and offer that. So Beav, I appreciate you coming in. Dude, it's fantastic. I could sit here and talk to you all day.
Yeah.
I mean, literally. My throat's starting to hurt from talking so much.
I feel like I've done too much talking.
No, it's fantastic. We love when our guests come in and they take control of the conversation because it's really more about you than it is about me.
It's always about me.
Always. No, as it should be. Yeah. So everybody, Tactical Baby Gear, where can they find you? You're Tactical Baby Gear on every platform?
Tactical Baby Gear, all over the place. And then you can find any of my personal stuff, which I still play around and tinker with cars for fun. Beav Brodie on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, man, I appreciate it.
Of course.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.